I tried beating Terraria as the Chance class. This class introduces 44 brand new dice throwing weapons that allow us to progress through Terraria in a brand new way. So, will I be able to beat Terraria, or did my luck just run out? I started off the game by spawning into the world, opening up a starter bag, consuming all of my life crystals and the mana stars, and then chopping down trees. After chopping down my very first tree, I placed down a workbench and made myself the infamous wooden dice, which deals a grand total of 4 chance damage. Along with all the weapons, there's also a bunch of brand new armor sets that we can use to help us deal even more damage within the class, so I can't wait to get onto that. After this, I went to go mining because I need to get myself some ores, and during this time I actually managed to grab up some demonite, so I managed to craft myself the demonite dice and also made myself a bunch of NPC prisons because I'm not, a good builder and I don't want to build houses. I like Terraria more for the weapons and progression and the style of weaponry more than the NPC, all that stuff. I'm a bit of an interesting player, might I add. Anyways, after building a bunch of prisons, I then realized that we can actually craft our very first set of dice armor by using the scales dropped from the Eater of Worlds or the tissue samples dropped by the Brain of Cthulhu. Soon after this, I went into the crafting recipe and crafted myself a paper robe and a paper cap, which actually gave us a bit of defense and gave our dice more critical strike chance. The next armor set we can craft is actually post beating the Eater of Worlds or the Brain of Cthulhu, but at this point I don't know what boss is next, so you're gonna have to bear with me here until I get through some of these bosses. I went over to the left side of the world and cleared an entire pyramid. I am not sorry, Egyptians. And then I went into the jungle to try to farm out some resources, and what I mean by that primarily is get myself some life crystals. I blew myself up with an explosive chest, and then I came back to the jungle. I searched all the chests looking for a summon for the Eye of Cthulhu, but for the life of me I could not find it, and once I found it, I came back to spawn, made myself the Blade of Grass version of the dice, which was crafted out of jungle spores and stingers, and then I started building myself an arena for the Eye of Cthulhu. I then went to go break some of the orbs within the corruption biome, summoning in the Eater of Worlds, and thinking that I was good enough to destroy it, I just shot right for the boss. Didn't really want to wait for nighttime as I thought I was powerful enough. I almost managed to take a fat L as my health at one point did manage to drop pretty low, but I healed up and picked up some of the hearts. The Eater of Worlds is actually pretty easy to cheese, like if you're not horrible at the game, but I could understand how it was hard, as I remember when I was younger, this guy would completely traumatize me of the difficulty even on normal mode. Anyways, we defeated that. Then as soon as that was done, I came back to spawn, and since it was nighttime, I defeated the Eye of Cthulhu using the same Blade of Grass version of the dice. Every single dice was very different in the sense that its trajectory would be different depending on how further you get into the game, and you could actually throw it faster depending on how far you get into the game. So the dice at this point kind of deal low damage, and the effects aren't too good. So for example, maybe the poison dice would give poison onto enemies, but nothing compared to the dice that come later within the playthrough. Anyways, after this I crafted myself a brand new set of armor from all of the scales, and then I crafted myself a nightmare pickaxe and went mining for hellstone. During this time I picked up tons of obsidian, tons of hellstone, I got myself a hell forge, and once I came back to spawn I actually crafted myself the Twilight's Verge, which was essentially the Night's Edge version of the dice. Now you might ask, Boyo, how did you craft the Muramasa version of the dice if you did not beat Skeletron? Isn't that how most games operate? Well, I might add that no, in this version you can just craft a regular dice, and all you need to make that is just 4 glass and one of those glass combustion chamber things. I don't really know what it's called. It looks like an egg. Yeah, and then right after that we can just craft the Night's Edge version of the dice. It was quite silly. I thought we'd have to defeat Skeletron, but now we are so much more overpowered than Skeletron. So as soon as it turns to nighttime, I rushed over to his dungeon and just completely bullied Skeletron. This boss fight was quite easy due to all of the effects of the dice, and then I went to go farm out a bunch of water candles within his dungeon. I like the dungeon because then I can craft the battle cry, which then lets me farm out mobs faster and I don't have to grind out the entire game. I think by the amount of quality of life mods I have, I'm playing a whole different version of Terraria to anybody else. I'll leave all the mods in the description down below because I keep on forgetting to add all of them. As soon as all of the deeds were done, I went down to the underworld and built a gymongous, that is correct, gymongous arena for the Wall of Flesh. I found myself a guide voodoo doll, and once I killed it, I chucked it into the lava, I buffed up and spammed. And I mean spammed the wall of flesh with my dice. Now, a little oopsie during this time that managed to occur to me is I used like an infinite summon for the wall of flesh, which caused the wall of flesh to spawn on the completely wrong side of the world that I wanted to. So I had to like multitask by building an arena while at the same time trying to take out the wall of flesh, and this was an absolute nightmare, as any second I could fall into lava and just completely game end myself on the spot. I'd have to be digging while running away from the wall. I'd have to be placing platform on the most outwards area of the arena, but at the end of the fight I took it out and I did not die, making me a god amongst Terraria players, better than Urimir. Do not quote me on this. Anyways, I picked up all of the items that it dropped and I broke all of the altars using the altar extractinator thing that you can craft. It's a quality of life thing from the Fargo's Mutant mod. I definitely recommend you get the Fargo's Mutant mod. It just saves so much time in Terraria. But yeah, then I got attacked by all the wraiths. We blessed the world with cobalt, mithril, and adamantite, and I went to go and do the amazing pickaxe progression. Using my molten pickaxe, I got the cobalt pickaxe, got myself the mithril anvil and mithril pickaxe, and then mined for adamantite. Once I had all of the adamantite in the world that I could possibly ever want, I went to go farm for the souls of night and souls of light. And along with this, I was killing spiders to get spider fangs so I can craft my next set of armor. Being in the hallowed biome and demolishing spiders actually gave me like a 2-in-1 result where I can farm out souls of light and also defeat as much spiders as I need to craft all the armor sets I need. Anyways, once I came back to spawn, I crafted myself the dealer visor. I had myself the adamantite dice, also crafted myself the dealer pants, and now we just need a little bit more to craft ourselves the chest plate of the dealer armor set, I guess. No, not bad substance dealer. That's not what I'm talking about. More of the cards dealer, if you catch what I'm saying. Anyways, we spent loads of time dying within the spider biome as well. The spiders are quite overpowered once you get into hard mode. And once I came back to spawn, I crafted myself the full set of armor, giving us not that much defense, like 33 actually. But after this, I went into the underground corruption biome and farmed out a bunch of souls of night. After this, I went over to the sky to farm out harpies and wyverns, which was quite a challenging task. As you know, they dealt tons of damage for the unprepared Boio in early hard mode, and once I had all the resources, I crafted myself a pair of harpy wings. By this point, I had the summon for the destroyer and the twins ready to go. All I needed is now the bones for Skeletron Prime, so I rushed over into the dungeon and farmed out a bunch of bones. I then crafted myself the summon for Skeletron, browsed some of the accessories and new dice that I can craft, and then I summoned in the destroyer. Surprisingly, we managed to take him out on our very first try, which I didn't think would work because while most other modded classes have like a very underpowered mech boss stage, so hey, I guess props to this mod for being quite balanced. And then as soon as this was done, I crafted myself the Cortana, which was a hallowed dice, and I went straight to blasting the twins with my amazing dice powers. Once this was done, we went for Skeletron Prime, and we managed to take this bad boy out as well, making the jungle grow restless and making my pickaxe progression grow restless as well, as by this point I crafted myself the pickaxe axe, and I turned my Knight's Edge version of the dice into the true Knight's Edge version of the dice, which was a little bit slower and it dealt a bunch more damage. We then got invaded by goblins, so I completely demolished every single one of them using the Twilight's Verge, which was the Knight's Edge version of the dice, and then I went over to the jungle to start mining for some ever so needed chlorophyte, but well, I couldn't find it. After going AFK for quite a while and letting the chlorophyte grow, I came back to the dungeon and started mining for more and more chlorophyte. Realizing that I needed more money, I came back to spawn and fought the destroyer a couple more times. Getting a little bit too cocky, I actually managed to die, even with the brand new set of armor that I crafted, which I completely forgot to mention. We actually crafted like a hallowed pair of armor for the dice class, so I don't even know how I died here. But then we tried to go take it out again, and this time, you know, we did it all fine, but I needed more money, so this isn't gonna be the end of it. But after this, I actually went back to the jungle, and in a tiny arena, which I had previously blown up using the Fargo's Mutant mod, I placed down some platforms and, well, just summoned in Plantera. Using the true Twilight's Verge, we spammed her, and then I switched back to the Cortana, which was like the hallowed version of the dice, and that was dealing far more damage, so I decided to stick to this weapon over the, you know, the true Knight's Edge version, and we took out Plantera quite easily. As soon as this was done, I went straight into Golem's temple and looted every single one of his chests. During this time, I also started the solar eclipse to get some Mothrons to spawn because we needed some broken hero dice, which, as you know, only drop from Mothrons. On my first kill of the Mothron, I actually managed to get it, and after a bit of messing around, I crafted myself the Terra dice, which then gave me the ability to go and fight Golem. So I went over to his dungeon, placed down some platforms, drank up all of my potions and summoned in the golem himself. We managed to defeat his first phase quite easily without taking much damage, but as the second phase came around, he started jumping further at us. But you know, being an Inferno mode god of a player, as you know, I did do an Inferno mode playthrough that I never finished, but you know, that was good enough. I dodged all of his attacks and we took him out like ridiculously easily. I got the golem dice, which was dropped from the golem, but I think it just made more sense to use our Terra dice. I then got another broken hero dice from the solar eclipse once more. I then went back to the jungle to get some chlorophyte. I got a bunch of various different resources throughout the world, and the reason I needed this is because I needed to actually craft myself the Terra blade. Not only did I have the Terra blade version of the dice, I needed to get a Terra blade to craft a brand new dice that was literally just converted from the Terra blade. I know it sounds interesting, but that's exactly what we did, and that's why I had to go through the entire dungeon to get the Muramasa. Then I also had to go through the solar eclipse once more to get, you know, the broken hero swords. I had to get some chlorophyte. I had to craft the Knight's Edge and the Excalibur, the True Knight's Edge and the True Excalibur. And after doing all of this, I crafted myself the Terra blade. And right after this was done, I converted the Terra blade into the Miscellanea, which was a chance class weapon that dealt 275 damage. That is correct. That is quite a lot. And using this, I went to go fight the Lunatic Cultist. This was bar none, probably the hardest boss fight that we have done thus far. I got the Phantasm Dragons to spawn, which was bad, just means my aim was horrific. It was very hard to hit the Lunatic Cultist, and there were so many times where I just could not hit him when he was doing the duplicated Lunatic Cultist phase. All of these bosses just became increasingly difficult as we got closer and closer to the game, as the class was less and less balanced. So I had a very rough time trying to take out the Lunatic Cultist, but we did manage to do it. And you know, as always, after we defeated him, I spawned where the solar pillar was, getting just completely 360 no-scoped by all of these solar enemies. I then went to go and try to take out the vortex pillar, dying countless times. I did manage to take out all of the mobs, and then I took out the pillar. Right after this, I rushed straight over to the solar pillar to try to take out all of those mobs, but since that was too difficult, I just decided to go for the Stardust pillar, but you know, I died there too. Then there was a last set of armor that we could actually craft from the Pumpkin Moon invasion, so that's exactly what I did. I went to go fight the Pumpkin Moon, and this was very difficult because the dice weren't piercing. So for some reason, the dice would not pierce all the enemies, and they only do contact on one mob, which was just very annoying. But we got through a bunch of the Pumpkin Moon, and we farmed out a bunch of the wood, which is exactly what we needed. Upon defeating the Vortex Pillar, I also crafted myself a brand new dice called the Auroran dice, which was completely overpowered compared to all the other dice that I had. And then for the next like 20 minutes, I just proceeded to farm the Pumpkin Moon because, well, even though it was superbly difficult to destroy these mobs, I had to get my armor set somehow, or we are not going to defeat the Moonlord. Farming and farming the Moonlord, Boyo keeps on going, fighting pumpkins. I got myself the Pumpkin dice, which was pretty neat. Didn't really do anything special, but look, it's in our inventory, top left, looks pretty cool. And once the pumpkin invasion ended, I started crafting myself the High Roller set, which for a chest plate, for example, required 300 wood, but it gave us the capability to do far more damage compared to any of the other armor sets that we previously had. At this point, I crafted myself the full set of the High Roller armor, and I also gave myself a bunch of various different accessories, which were for the chance class. After this, I went to go fight the Stardust pillar, which we took out, and then I went on to fight the Nebula pillar. We took out the Nebula pillar, leaving the Solar pillar for last. After this, I got myself some Souls of Light and crafted myself a pair of beetle wings. My accessories were actually so underpowered that this is the first playthrough that I had to get a full set of very good accessories. So I got myself the Hero Shield, I think it was called. I got myself the Celestial Emblem. I crafted myself the Terra Spark boots. I got myself all the accessories like the emblem and this like weird stick accessory from the chance class, and I tried to reforge as many of the weapons and armor sets as I could. I then farmed out a bunch of more mechanical bosses in order to get myself all the money that I needed to buy myself all the potions and cheese with the nurse when we have to go fight Moonlord. And after I had everything and I was more rich than Elon Musk himself, I went to go fight the Solar Pillar. This caused me lots of death and lots of anguish, but after the Solar Pillar was out, my screen started shaking and I ran back to spawn. I buffed up as quickly as I could and started throwing my Auroran Wind to Moonlord. Now this was quite difficult as we had next to no HP and as we had next to no defense, and our weapons were missing half of the time. So this was a very interesting boss fight. It took us quite a while. I had to like rebuff countless times, which was good because I had bought a bunch of buffs. We took out the Moonlord's right arm, we took out the left arm, and here I ran out of buffs because the boss fight had been going on for maybe 4 minutes by now and all of the OP buffs had run out. I then quickly went to go rush back to heal with the nurse, only realizing that I had actually run out of money, and before we could take out his middle eye, I managed to die. I should be a rapper. That rhymed. Anyways, at this point I was furious, but I realized I needed more money, so I went to go fight the Destroyer a bunch more times, as you know, you can sell the souls, sell the hallowed bars for tons of money, and we can use that to cheese with the nurse and buy even more potions so he can last us longer than 10 minutes. At some point, the pirates actually invaded us, so I had to fight them off, and you know, I sold all of their items. And for some reason, I completely forgot that I needed more of various different fragments to actually craft the summon for the moonlord, and I managed to sell half of them, so I had to refight the lunatic cultist, which was fine, you know, he wasn't too difficult. And I had to go redo all of the pillars again, so I did the vortex pillar first, went for the stardust pillar next, and I crafted myself the celestial sigil, as for some reason I only sold 2 of the various fragments. I don't really know how my brain is working, but look, we got the sigil, and now we can summon in the moonlord. Here goes nothing, I guess. I summoned him in and started spamming both of his arms with the Auroran Wind. This was the best dice thus far, and after taking out, well, his eyeball, both of his hands, we are now able to attack his core. During this time, I was using a combination of rushing to the nurse and using all of my potions non-stop in order to take him out, and once his core got pretty low, I dealt the final damaging blow, and we managed to take him out. He ended up dropping a brand new dice that we can use, and with the dice called D20, I went to go refight the moonlord. We managed to take him out again, and then I crafted myself some armor set pieces for the end game armor. I went to fight the moonlord again, and I finished off with the full set of Auroran armor, giving us 74 defense and a set bonus which increases our chance damage by 14%. With this, I went to go fight moonlord using the D20 with full Auroran armor, and we managed to take him out in a complete breeze. Anyways, boyos, this has been the chance class from Terraria. This mod is not completely finished, so I bet in the future it'll be even more fleshed out than it already is, but I hope you enjoyed the video regardless. Consider subscribing to the channel if you're new. This has been Boyo. Peace out.